The ropes carved deep into her wrists until her hands turned numb. Eliza was pinned against the rough wooden beams. Her arms stretched until every muscle trembled. Her legs bound so tight she could barely shift her weight. Her skin burned under the ruthless sun, each drop of sweat sliding into open bruises and setting them on fire. The heat did not just scorch her body. It stripped away her dignity, peeling it layer by layer in front of everyone. Around her stood the people she once trusted. Neighbors who once shared bread and kindness. Women who had sat in her kitchen, laughed over tea, and asked her advice on sewing. Now they stared as if she were filth, their lips curling in disgust, their eyes refusing to see her pain. Thief. The word struck harder than a whip. Another voice joined in. Shame of the town. Then another, colder still. Let her rot here. Eliza shook her head until her tangled hair stuck to her cheeks. I did nothing, she tried to say, but her voice cracked, weak, lost in the roar of their judgment. Every plea was smothered beneath the weight of their silence, or worse, their mocking laughter. A boy no taller than her waist once, now bold, hurled a stone. It hit her shoulder, and the crowd only murmured approval. Her knees buckled, but the ropes kept her upright, turning her weakness into a cruel display. The sun pressed down mercilessly, her skin reining, lips splitting with dryness so she could not even wipe the sweat from her face. Could not even shield her eyes from the glare. The world burned bright, yet not one soul saw her truth, memories stabbed sharper than the ropes. The blacksmith who used to smile kindly when she passed. The butcher who had given her scraps of meat when she was a child. The midwife who once held her hand through sickness. All of them looked away now. Their silence cut deeper than their words. Shame smothered her chest until each breath came shallow. Her body hurt, but worse was the knowledge that no one cared. This was not justice. This was cruelty disguised as order. She twisted against the ropes, skin tearing, and cried out, "Please, I beg you." Her words carried no weight. The wind scattered them and the crowd did not flinch. The sun climbed higher and the heat grew unbearable. Flies landed on her skin, crawling across the cuts, and she could not shake them off. The sweat stung inside her wounds. It burned like salt rubbed in by invisible hands. Her throat was raw, her tongue heavy, yet still she whispered her innocence. Why her? Why this way? The humiliation burned hotter than the sun itself. She wanted to collapse and disappear into the dust, but the ropes held her upright for every cruel eye to see. Her mind screamed, but her lips barely moved. Would anyone ever listen? And then, through the haze of pain and shame, a memory returned. The look in Luke's eyes when he cornered her days ago, the words he hissed, the hand that reached where it should not, her refusal, his fury, and soon after the missing cattle, the whispers that began to circle, the blame that fell perfectly into place upon her shoulders. Eliza pressed her cheek to the coarse wood, her tears mixing with dust. The jeers faded for a moment, drowned out by the hammering of her heart. One thought consumed her, sharp and relentless. If every voice condemns her, if every neighbor turns away, who will uncover the lie before the sun burns her alive? Jacob dropped to one knee, his fingers tugging hard at the ropes biting into Eliza's wrist. Her skin was raw, her breathing shallow, but she still managed to lift her head. The look in her eyes was not just fear. It was the last hope she had left in this world. Just as the knot began to loosen, a sharp voice cut across the field. Step away, Cain. Jacob froze, then slowly turned. Luke, son of the town elder, strutted forward with that same smirk folks in town had grown used to. At his side, lumbered a thick-shouldered farm hand, gripping a stick like he meant to use it. Jacob rose to his feet, the sun flashing off the sweat on his brow. He did not speak. Not yet. He just placed himself between Eliza and the two men. His silence was enough to light a fuse. Luke twirled the knife in his hand, eyes narrowing. She stays where she is. Do it. Nobody touches her. Jacob's jaw clenched. Yeah. His voice steady. You've had your say. Now she's coming down. Before Luke could answer, Eliza found her voice ragged but fierce. You liar. You tried to force me. I said no, and then you blamed me for the cattle. Her cry tore across the field like a gunshot. Jacob saw the flicker in Luke's eyes. Anger, fear, shame. The farm hand lunged, swinging his stick. Jacob stepped forward, caught the swing with one hand, and drove his shoulder into the man's chest. The farm hand collapsed into the dust, coughing and groaning. Luke snarled, charging with his knife. The blade slashed through the hot air. Jacob's reflexes were faster than most men half his age. He grabbed Luke's wrist, twisted hard, and the knife clattered into the dirt. Luke staggered back, fists flying wild. But Jacob's punch landed square on his jaw. The young man fell to his knees, spitting blood, his pride broken in front of the woman he meant to destroy. Jacob stood tall, chest heaving, one boot planted firm in the dirt. Eliza sagged against the ropes, tears streaking her face. But this time they were mixed with relief. Luke wiped his mouth, eyes burning with hatred, but he did not move to pick up the knife. For the first time, he looked small. For the first time, he looked beaten. Jacob bent down, pulled the last knot free, and caught Eliza before she fell. Her voice shook, but the words carried sharp as steel. Tell them, Jacob, tell them about his knife. They need to see the truth. Jacob glanced at the blade lying in the dust. The letter carved into the handle glinting under the sun, his eyes narrowed. His next move would decide everything. Jacob bent down, lifted the knife from the dirt, and turned it in his hand. The handle was carved rough, but clear enough for everyone to see. The letter L burned deep into the wood. It was not just a tool. It was Luke's mark, a thing no one else in the county carried. Eliza's voice, though weak, carried with strength now. I saw him drop it by the cattle fence the night they went missing. Her eyes locked on Luke, no longer begging, but accusing. Luke's face twisted. That means nothing. Anyone could have put it there. But his words stumbled, his breath uneven. Jacob stepped closer, his broad frame casting a shadow over the boy who had moments ago played the tyrant. You set her up, Luke. You tried to make her pay for turning you down. The farm hand groaned on the ground 2 days to get back in the fight. Luke alone faced Jacob now, but without his knife, he looked smaller, weaker. His hand shook, not from anger, but from the fear that the truth was catching him at last. Jacob's voice carried steady like a man who had seen too much of life to be fooled. This knife is enough for me, and it'll be enough for Sheriff Collins, too. Luke's jaw clenched. You'll regret crossing me, old man. Jacob didn't blink. I've regretted many things, but not this. Eliza leaned against Jacob's arm, still trembling, but her eyes held light again. For the first time since she was tied up, she believed someone stood with her. That belief alone gave her strength to stay on her feet. Luke spat into the dust, his pride bleeding out faster than the cut on his lip. You think the sheriff will listen to her? To you, he listens to my father, not strangers. Jacob's lips curled into the smallest of smiles. You let me worry about Colin. He's known me longer than your daddy's been breathing easy. The tension thickened. Every second felt like a thread ready to snap. Luke stared at the knife in Jacob's grip, then turned and stormed off. His pride wounded deeper than any bruise. The farm hand stumbled after him, limping and muttering. Jacob tucked the knife into his belt, then lifted Eliza gently onto his horse. Hold tight, we're riding into town. Let's see how brave Luke feels when the sheriff sees this. The horse stepped forward, hooves crunching over dry grass, carrying them toward a reckoning that could no longer be avoided. And right here, if you've been drawn into this story and you want to follow every twist until the very end, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to stay close as we ride deeper into the truth. Because next, Jacob will bring Eliza face to face with Sheriff Collins. And the question is simple. Will justice stand with them, or will the power of Luke's family crush the truth once more? The ride into town was slow, the horse steady under the weight of two souls who had seen too much in one day. Eliza clung to Jacob's arm, her body weak, her face still stray with dust and tears. She whispered only once, "Do you think he will believe us?" Jacob patted her hand, his voice low, but sure. If Collins is still the man I knew, he'll hear you out. The sun beat down as they crossed the wide street of the small town. Folks stopped to stare. Some whispered, some frowned, but no one stepped forward. By the time they reached the sheriff's office, Eliza's head had dropped against Jacob's shoulder, her strength nearly gone. Sheriff Collins looked up from his desk as Jacob pushed open the door. His eyes went wide at the sight. Eliza Moore, Lord above, what happened to her? Jacob set her gently in a chair. She was strung up like a thief. Beaten by the sun in the crowd. And all because Luke decided she should pay for what he did. Collins leaned back, folding his arms. Those are strong words. Jacob, you know Luke's father sits high in this town. Jacob's hand went to his belt, pulling free the knife with the carved L, then let the facts sit higher. This was found by the cattle fence. She saw him drop it, and today he carried it right into the fight. The sheriff turned the knife in his hand, eyes narrowing. The letter cut deep into the handle, left no room for doubt. He glanced at Eliza, who forced herself to sit straight, her voice trembling, but steady. He tried to force me. I said, no. Then the cattle were gone. He blamed me to cover his shame. For a long moment, the room held nothing but the sound of Collins' boots tapping the floor. Finally, he sighed, heavy as a man who carried too many secrets already. I always knew that boy had his father's arrogance. Never thought he'd stoop this low. Jacob leaned forward, voice steady as stone. You going to stand with the truth, Collins? Or let the elder son walk free? The sheriff met his old friend's eyes, and something unspoken passed between them. Collins nodded, slow but certain. I'll put this before the council. Luke will face questions he can't run from. Eliza let out a shaky breath, her shoulders slumping in relief, but the sheriff's voice sharpened again. Still, this town runs on power as much as truth. You both best be ready. His father won't let this go quiet. Jacob reached for his hat, eyes narrowing. Then we'll meet him head on. The stage was set, justice had its opening, but the fight was far from over. And if you've stayed with us this long, you'll want to see what comes next, 'cause Luke's father is about to make his move, and the cost of standing with the truth may be higher than anyone expects. The council gathered that evening, and for the first time in many months, the town square was silent. Sheriff Collins laid the knife on the table, the letter carved into the handle plain for all to see. Luke stood in the corner, face pale, his father at his side, fuming with pride and rage mixed together. The accusations could no longer be hidden. The truth had slipped out, and the whole town had to face it. Eliza sat with her hands folded tight in her lap. Her body still carried the bruises, but her spirit no longer bent the way it had on that wooden frame. Every eye in the room turned to her, yet this time she did not look away. She spoke with a voice steadier than before. I never stole from you. I never betrayed this town. All I ever did was say no when a man wanted to take what was not his. The word spread through the crowd, settling heavy in every ear. People shifted in their seat. Some were ashamed, some were angry at themselves for believing the lie. Jacob stood behind her, quiet but strong, the kind of presence that made others think twice before speaking. Sheriff Collins gave the final word. This town has been fed on lies long enough. Luke will answer for this. And with that, the weight of false judgment began to lift. As Eliza stepped outside, the sunlight touched her face again. This time, it did not feel like punishment. It felt like a chance to breathe, a chance to live. She looked at Jacob, her voice soft but clear. You saved me when no one else would. He tipped his hat, a small smile tugging at his mouth. Maybe you saved yourself. I just happened to ride by. And here's where the story leaves us with more than an ending. It leaves us with a question. How often do we turn away when someone is cast aside? How often do we stay silent when lies are easier than truth? And when the moment comes to stand tall, will we step forward like Jacob? Or will we let fear make the choice for us? Stories like this remind us that courage can come from the most ordinary souls. That justice, even when threatened by power, can still rise if just one person refuses to look away. And maybe, just maybe, love is born not in comfort, but in the fire of trials that test who we really are. If this story has touched you, take a moment now to like this video. And if you want more stories that carry the dust of the Wild West and the lessons of life, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to ride with us into the next tale, because the West is full of secrets yet to be uncovered and every story holds a question waiting for you to answer.